Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Michael Bulloch and this is part one of my how-to video titled Capturing the Harsh High Desert Sun. I filmed this at my studio in Artifacts Gallery in historic downtown Farmington. And if you're ever in Farmington, be sure and stop in and say hi. I'm here most days and it's always nice to chat with people. If you're new to the channel, which pretty much everybody is, because I'm pretty new to YouTube, please take this moment and like the video and subscribe to the channel. It will really help me out, and I want to keep bringing you cool, fun watercolor lessons. If you enjoy the video, consider sharing it with anyone you think also might like it. I'm going to make a little plug for Utrecht Art Supplies. My affiliate link is in the description down below. Clicking it will take you to my curated supply list. Be sure and check that out. Some of the items like paint colors are doubled up, because I recommend two different brands or multiple brands. So they're available from either brand. Don't feel like you need to order everything. Just take a look and pick and choose things you think you might like. I also have a discount code for Meeden Art, which is MBW70, and that gets you 12% off your purchase. The link for that is below as well. Meeden is a great site for budget-conscious artists, especially those wanting to try watercolor for the first time. They have some great deals on their brand of watercolor paints and brushes, and they feature some amazing studio furniture. So be sure and check them out as well. I really like their 140-pound watercolor paper. It's a great budget alternative to Arches. Also, don't feel that you need to order a bunch of stuff to try watercolors. If you already have supplies, use them and upgrade as you can. The best supplies are the ones you already have. This week, we tackle the blinding glare of high-altitude light, pushing dark colors into deep geometric shadows against sun-bleached adobe walls to capture that stark architectural contrast where blinding light meets saturated dark shadows. Imagine a light adobe wall so bright it actually hurts to look at. We're pushing our pigments to the limit today, balancing stark architectural contrasts under the harshest light imaginable. Witness how we transform blinding sun-bleached walls into a masterpiece of desert geometry. Most of the time, we're trying to avoid the midday sun, but this week we're heading straight into the glare to tackle the ultimate value study. We're using heavy washes and bold color choices to recreate the sharp structural shadows of an Adobe Santa Fe home. Now let's get started with part one of my how-to video, Capturing the Harsh High Desert Sun. All right, I'm looking at my sketch here. Man, I'll just hold this up so you can kind of see. And I made some notes here. I did the sketch based on this photo, and I've got some, well, this is silly. Let's just zoom in on this. So, I want to kind of grow this area here. Maybe even grow this, pull it closer. I don't know. We'll see what we're gonna do. But so I'm kind of changing. You can also see that I moved this kind of vine thing over onto this side of the tree in my sketch. I moved the tree further. Well, I really kind of looked at my sketch being like right about in there somewhere. So I still want to keep that. I like that. I like these bushes. I like this kind of whatever this is up front. I like the cast shadow. I did move, like there's a tree over here, which was actually inside the yard, and I kind of moved it outside the yard so I could get a cool shadow on this wall here. You can see I kind of got rid of this. This isn't really important to my story. I've sort of grown this stuff so it's taller because I wanted that. I got rid of this. I haven't decided yet, but there's a small little window here. I might actually make that bigger. So we're still, and I like this little curved thing. So I did this sketch. Now I've got some ideas on how to kind of change it for my painting. Let's zoom back out. Woo! And I'm just going to speed through this. So I'll probably end up time-lapsing this just because. So I think
the wall kind of here, and then maybe my arch kind of here, and then that highest point, furthest forward point, up in, and then maybe this comes back in here like so. I do also maybe want to move my gate a little further over. I think that's another. Yeah, I think I'm going to make a little note here on my sketch. So let's see here. Maybe we'll kind of pull that up in here. And I kind of made the the arch a little bit bigger and the wall a little bit shorter. So maybe I could kind of deal with that too. And you can see I changed, between here. This has more of a sharp point there, and I kind of wanted to make it a little bit more of a curved arch. I can actually end up, because this is a little bit bigger space, I can actually end up, I have a little bit wider. Maybe I can kind of do something where I include, I can kind of change this sketch up. And I'm not really trying to make this tree look the same as the tree in my photo. I just like the fact that there's a tree there. So I can actually move the tree in a little bit. Something like that. I don't know. Uh, and then we have this mailbox. All right, so I didn't film this, but let me just want to zoom in on some of this. This stuff that I have right here is masking fluid, and it's this Daniel Smith artist masking fluid with an applicator pen. But you can also, like, here's another brand, Pebio, I don't know how to pronounce that, but it dries into this kind of rubber. If you've never used it, these are just a couple of brands. I just used it to put a bunch of little blobby shapes on the paper so that I can kind of save this area for flowered shapes. That's really what that's going to be. So let me just zoom back out. But anyway, so I put that on there and let it dry. The key with this stuff, if you've never used it, don't apply it to wet paper. It needs to be applied to dry paper. And you don't necessarily need one of these, but there's a little, this is a brand new one that I've never used, but it's basically a rubber cement remover. This one is about 20 years old. It's very round. This one is about 10 years old. It's less round. And this one is brand new that came with that. So just a couple of brands. There's all sorts of brands out there. You don't necessarily need to use this Pebo. I don't know how to pronounce it. And I should stop trying because I'm embarrassing myself. But this is basically a liquid masking fluid. And that's what this is too. And that's just to save the white of the paper so that I can go back in and add, lighter colors later. So I'm going to start with this. This is that house in Santa Fe. And let's see, let's go ahead. And I'm going to do kind of a multicolored wash. And I'm actually going to paint over everything. So not the door and not these little details and not the trees and stuff. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this. These sort of forward-facing walls first, and this is really to kind of get that really bright, harsh light that you get at higher altitudes, 5,000 feet and above. I'm going to get a little bit of water on my brush, and I'm going to start with some permanent yellow deep. And I'm just going to make myself a nice little puddle there. So permanent yellow deep. And then a little permanent yellow orange. I'm just going to put a little there. I definitely want some opera. So I'm just going to make a nice little puddle right there of opera. And I don't know if you can see this, but I accidentally dropped some green paint. Right, that's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. I may even add a little green to these walls just to give it a little interesting color. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and just assume that I'm going to grab some permanent yellow green. Not permanent yellow green. Permanent green number 1. There we go. I don't know that I'm going to use any lemon yellow. Probably not. I'll probably just kind of go between these. I might use a little bit of alizarin crimson, so I'm just going to grab a little of that, throw that down here. So I've got that. I could also use a little Scarlet Lake. I've kind of switched from using permanent red to Scarlet Lake. It's just a slightly orangier red that I like. And you'll notice that this is a larger sheet of paper. This is what's known as a half sheet. Basically, I took a full sheet of watercolor paper and folded it in half and tore it apart. So I have this nice rectangle. And this is 300-pound paper, so it's pretty thick, heavy. Arches cold press. And I've put a couple pieces of tape, like 4 pieces of, kind of looped some tape and put them down just so it'll stay on my artboard. So let's get started. Let's put some paint on the paper. So I'm just going to start with my permanent yellow deep. And I'm going to come in. I want to kind of keep this nice. Nice line across the top because that's the roof line. There is going to be a shadow in this area, but let's come in with a little regular permanent yellow orange. So this is, again, like the permanent yellow deep could be like a cadmium yellow deep or azo yellow or Indian yellow, any of those. And then this permanent yellow orange could be like cadmium orange or something of that nature. So I'm just going to kind of, and actually this, I want to start a little bit of that permanent yellow lemon here. Just, it doesn't matter. We're going to go back in and add another glaze on top here. So let's come back in with that. Maybe even a little Scarlet Lake back in here. And I'm just kind of sculpting how this tree over here will look, which it could change as well. It may in. So we'll just kind of pull that in. That's a nice little bright. Heck, maybe we'll come in with a little opera as well. So we'll just kind of drop some of that in there. I'm not overly concerned with a switch back up to this permanent yellow deep again because I want this to be kind of lighter. And if it bleeds in, that's okay. I'm not too terribly worried about it. We'll add some darks later. Oops. Guess that's how that tree's going to be now. That's all right. Maybe we'll come back in with some of this darker permanent yellow orange over in here. This is going to be a nice light up in here. Same with on this side. So I was using the permanent yellow deep, then I moved into the permanent yellow orange. Maybe some of this Scarlet Lake again. Maybe I will, I'm just going to add a little of this green over here. This is starting to dry up on me, so we'll just add a bit of water, a little more opera as well. Trick is you got to kind of go pretty quick. Let's see, let's grab a little of this orange. Maybe even a little alizarin crimson down in here. Little green. So just kind of painting around the things that aren't going to be just kind of having a little fun adding this color. I'm gonna wipe my brush off and pick up some of this excess water. I just want a little more green on here. Kind of just zoom in on that a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. Come back in and kind of get rid of some of that. So I know this looks like one big blob of color, but that'll change. But this is just our kind of our first wash for all of these kind of vertical uh, planes, vertical elements. And as this dries, I'm just dropping, putting a little water in, just clean water off my brush to form blossoms, because that becomes really nice texture on these adobe walls. All right, yeah. All right, so now that this is dry, I think I'm going to do, well, I need to do a couple of things. So let's come in with a, this is a little small, so, you know, this area in here. So I'm just going to use, my, actually, I think I'm going to go to my number 8 brush. And I'm going to come in, I want this to be a little darker back in there, so I'm going to start with my permanent yellow orange. Not enough water in the brush. And that in like so. And maybe even come in with a little Scarlet Lake. Pick some of that up and bring it down here around the door frame. Come back in with some of that. Maybe even a little opera. Soften some of that. Come back in maybe with that. What was I doing? Scarlet Lake, I think, here. And then I'm going to paint around these, what I have sketched in here, these little flower areas. Maybe we'll come in with some alizarin crimson as well. Also, there might be a little bit of a shadow from so this would be a little darker anyway, but which will probably add even some more because alizarin crimson is not really that dark of a color, even though it feels quite a bit darker than what I've got on there at the moment. Just kind of painting around that. One thing I've noticed is that I kind of got a little bit of an overlap here, so I want to, and there's still some water in my brush, or paint in my brush. So I need to kind of lift some of that dark that overlapped my arch here. And dark, I mean, it's not really dark, it's just a slightly darker hue. There we go. So I was getting a little bit of, and I'm not too worried about this bleeding into this here because there's going to be a shadow here and a gradiated shadow here. So, and I'm going to deal with adding a little bit more value change between this and this. So not too worried about that. While I'm thinking about it, I am going to come in with a little, actually I think I'm going to use a little quinacridone gold first, just so it's a little more earthy. And I'm going to do this area down here, so let's see. And maybe some Scarlet Lake as well. Some of that quinacridone, nope, some of that permanent yellow deep as well. So we'll just kind of A little of that. I'll just kind of pull that in. Right now, this is all looking just kind of flat and you know, like flat this way. We'll get this to actually recede in space by adding other things on top later. We're just kind of getting these lights, you know, just kind of getting these lights, this light area. I also want to add, so let's come back in with that quinacridone gold. I want to add in a little of this sidewalk here, which in the photo is a brick sidewalk, and I don't know if I'm going to actually, I don't know that I'm going to actually maybe we'll add just a hint of indigo down in here. I know that seems like it's dark, but it's just going to add a little bit of sidewalky kind of feel. Just gives it a variation. I could have used anything, but I kind of like the grayness of the. Let's come back in with some more quinacridone gold. Maybe a little opera. Well, just kind of giving it a cooler feel. Let's come back over here. It just occurred to me that I did not paint the wall over here on this side as well, so I need to do that as well. So that was a little quinacridone gold. Now I'm going to bring in a little more of that opera and some of that indigo. And then a lot of water, because I still want this to be pretty light. So maybe some permanent yellow deep as well, just to brighten it just a bit. Put a little more over there as well. Now I'm thinking about it, I do want to come in with a little with this wall, so I'm going to just grab some of my permanent yellow deep. Just kind of paint around where I think maybe some of this vine would be. Doesn't have to be perfect. Come in with a little permanent yellow orange. Now, most of this right here is not going to be that visible later. Let's come in with a little alizarin crimson. Pick some of that up as well. Let's see. I think I'm gonna. So that's pretty dry, so I'm gonna paint the kind of the first layer on this as well. So this, even though in the photo, like looking at this, the door is not blue. I'm a fan of blue doors. So let me grab a little quinacridone gold, because I do want this to look like it's faded. That's more fun than a perfectly painted door. So I'm going to add a little, and I'm using the side of my brush here, just kind of, and I do want this fairly wet. So there we go. Let's come in with a little Andrews turquoise. So Andrews turquoise is a American Journey color from Cheap Joe's, but it's now Journey Art Supply. So, but I'm sure that you can find in fact, I think I have some other brands that do a kind of turquoise. This particular one happens to be American Journey that I'm using. So we'll just add a little of that blue, maybe
Maybe switch up to a little peacock blue as well. I'm going to add a little opera in here just because that's fun. Makes it look like peeling paint, and paint sometimes takes on, you know, even blue paint takes on a different hue. Let's go back to that Andrews turquoise up in here. Maybe some more peacock blue up in here at the top of the door. Just kind of do something like that. Let's come back in with a little, really, maybe cerulean blue. I like that kind of chalky blue. So maybe a little of that. That seems a little much. So let's just put a little down, clean our brush out, and then, yeah, I like that cerulean blue. I like that little shape that happened there, but I didn't want it to be white. So we'll just add a little water with some cerulean blue in it. Yeah, I like that chalkiness of the cerulean blue. It has that fun kind of paint around our kind of door handle looking thing here for this gate. Maybe more Andrews turquoise. I like that Andrews turquoise as well, so we'll just come in with a little more of that. Maybe add a little more in here. Maybe down here the paint would be, you know, maybe where water splashed or something, we'll get a little more. A little more of that quinacridone gold. Maybe some cerulean blue down here as well. Come back to some opera. Maybe a little more. A little bit of peacock to finish this out. And I know you're thinking, this is not a blue door, but in people's minds, it will look like a blue door. I think this needs a little more blue up in there. So that's just peacock blue that I was putting in where it was still fairly wet. I got enough. You know, if I wanted, I could come in with just a hint of green just to make it. So that's Hooker's green that I just dropped in there. And you know, on camera it does it. It's not that visible, but it just gives us a nice kind of faded wood, faded painted wood. Yeah, that's still damp, so let's see if I can, if it's damp enough. It may not be. Yeah, that might actually do something. I think everything else is too dry. Yep, but let me just. Sometimes you can also get some fun texture just by adding water, and then picking up some of that paint that's already on the brush, and then already on the paper, and then doing a little dry brushing. Maybe I could even pick up a little of this so I'm just using the side of my brush. Let me kind of zoom in on that real quick so you can kind of see. See what I'm doing here, but I'm just coming in with a little of that just on the side, just using the side of my brush to get some interesting texture. It's a little harder to see on camera, but yeah, there we go. Just some fun. Playing with a couple of different blues. That was Andrew's turquoise that I kind of dry brushed on there. And really it was less dry brush and more just barely touching, so the texture of the paper shows through. So I'm just sliding. So now I have some peacock blue, and then I can kind of do some fun things. So it just gives that peeling paint vibe, for lack of a better word. It starts to really feel like, seem like, look like peeling paint just by doing some of that. So I don't want to do too much. Don't want to overdo it, but that's kind of my initial wash on that door. Yeah, I do need to add the sidewalk and foreground stuff over here, so I'm going to do that real quick while I'm still thinking about it. So I'm going to clean out my brush and add some quinacridone gold, just like I had been before. I don't need a lot of, there's not a lot of stuff that's going on over here. A lot of this will kind of have a blue kind of haze over it later, when we finish this painting. So I'm not overly concerned with too much detail. Maybe I'll add a little of that indigo, just really thin, watery wash of that. A little opera as well, just to kind of have that
I do want to do the kind of a similar thing on the wooden door. I don't remember what this door looks like. You can kind of see there's a window back here that's got blue trim on it. So I'm gonna just treat the door similarly. It's, I don't remember what that looks like, but I'm not really painting. I just like the shapes. So I don't really care about what's really in there. This is going to be different, but this door back here is also going to be blue. So we'll just put in a little, and it's going to be this whole shape, even though this is like the door frame, this is a lintel going across, and then the door is just that little corner. This is all going to be kind of blue. So let's just put in a little so that was quinacridone gold, and then some peacock blue. Come back in with some Andrews turquoise maybe up in here. And honestly, I should have probably done this at the same time I did the door. I just wasn't thinking. But maybe a little opera because it's faded in here. This will all start to look much different as we go through. Right now, this is just the underpainting, the initial washes. I'm not overly concerned about that either because that's going to get covered up by a tree. Okay. Let's see. Let's come in with some cerulean. Well, let's put some cerulean blue up in here. Let's come back down with this stuff down in here that's faded. And the door was, I kind of overpainted a little of that. So instead of cerulean blue right there, because that was right next to more cerulean blue, I did not think that through. I'm going to put the cerulean blue down in here. Maybe this can be like a water stain or something. Because contrary to popular belief, it does rain and snow in New Mexico. Just not like other places. So we'll just kind of pick that up. I should zoom in on this again just so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay, now the cool thing is part of this door is going to have a shadow on it from the wall and stuff, so that's going to be cool. Now this is all going to be in shadow, this part of the wall, which I probably made a little too thick, but that's all right. I want to come in here and lay in some of this dark. So I'm going to start off with a little, I think, quinacridone violet. So we'll just so that's not exactly as wet as I wanted, but that's all right.
We'll just add some more water. Maybe add a little opera in there just so it gives that a effect of light bouncing up off of something. So come back in with this. Maybe we'll switch over to a little royal blue. Maybe a little Hooker's green mixed with some royal blue. Maybe a little quinacridone violet mixed with some royal blue just to get a nice violet. And this, I just figured out what bugs me. It's this angle right here. So I'm just going to change this up. So just get those two to kind of blend together there. That angle's working a little better for me. This whole thing kind of feels like it might be leaning a little bit, but that's all right. It's handmade. It could also be the angle of the camera. Let's come back in with a little more royal blue here. So that was kind of fun. Let's hit that with a hairdryer. While we're at it, since we're kind of doing some darks, let me just pan up here and we'll paint these darks over here. So I'm going to come in just with a little of that quinacridone violet. Not enough water on my brush. So just adding a little water. And I'm going to paint this as kind of a sharp edge at first. Let's come in with, I like that violet blue mix. I'm gonna paint this as a sharp edge, but then I'll soften the edge, this corner right here, later. So a little of this there, because it's just going to be a little round. Maybe I'll drop in a little opera just to give that a effect of reflecting light. Even though it's in shadow, we're getting some light bouncing back up on there. Come back up. Can't seem to get that line straight. That's all right. You just kind of change it up as you need to. So there we go. There's that bit of dark. I'm going to have this little bit of dark as well. I'm going to start it off the same way. I like how that worked. So we'll just have a little quinacridone violet. Come back in with that violet. That darker violet with the blue. That was a little opera. We'll come back in with this. I like this is just the royal blue. Get those to blend together. Now, right now, not looking like much, just some dark rectangular shapes. But again, this is all building to something, so. So we have this kind of curved wall here that meets this wall and then curves back out to, you know, to this and runs parallel. So what I want to do is, that was just starting to form a blossom that I don't know that I care for. We'll worry about that later, but I just wanted to get that dry so it would stop. So this being a cast shadow, I'm going to do a little bit differently than these that are in shadow. So I have this permanent, or I mean quinacridone violet. I'm going to drop in a little of this blue. This is royal blue right there. And then maybe a little opera, which I again know seems weird, but I just want a kind of a nice smooth transition. And we'll have to do the same in here. But let's come back in. Yeah. So that's going to give us a nice, I could even use maybe a little alizarin crimson just down in here, like that. Just kind of change this arch shape just a skosh. There we go. And then I'm just going to add water. That's just clean water to kind of get it to blend into, and then I'm going to come back in with some permanent yellow deep right in here. Like so. Maybe some Scarlet Lake, because this is going to push that wall back and this wall forward. Some permanent yellow orange. I'm just kind of adding a little texture to this. I might be jumping the gun on this a little bit, but I like that texture. that was happening there. So that's where I'm going. This may be a little darker than I actually want it, so I'll just add some water here. And I can actually get that to run that way a little bit, just get that water to soften that edge. Kind of recreate that over here, behind here, and this is going to be a little weirder because it's a weird shape and it's, you know, I'm recreating something that's curving this way, and then I have this weird curve here. So let's pull in some of this. So I've got kind of my main darks in there. I could go ahead and put in these kind of cast shadows, which I think I will. And those are going to just be, let's clean out my brush really good. What I may, I'm going to, a little quinacridone violet, maybe some alizarin crimson. And I think I'm going to start off with the alizarin crimson over here. So I'll just bring that down in there. Wow. Apparently I just stuck my finger in the brown matter. That could have been disastrous. So I've got that in there. Let's come in with some of this quinacridone violet. And maybe a little royal blue as well. Just a hint of it. Let's come back in with the quinacridone violet mixed with some royal blue as well. And I want to carefully paint along that edge. Let's come in. Let's come back in with just royal blue as well. A couple of spots. That's all right. I don't know how I feel about that, but might have needed to do some, should have probably done some green there just to. I'm going to use a Kleenex to kind of pick some of this back up. That's better. That's better. Had just a bit too heavy-handed on that, so just by picking some of that back up, now I'll add that green. But now it looks like cast shadow because I can still see that orange peeking through. That's good. So you can see, you know, a fair amount ended up on my Kleenex. Okay, let's come back. Let's try this again. Up in here. A little alizarin crimson. And maybe some Hooker's Green Royal Blue. So that's just Hooker's Green that I added just a touch of Royal Blue to. And then maybe some just plain old Royal Blue, just like so. That's not too shabby. Let's do this last one here. But you can see it's starting to add depth to this. If that feels a little heavy-handed, I can just pick some of that back up. I don't know. Maybe a little peacock blue. That does not have enough water in my brush to actually, there we go, drop in any peacock blue. Let's try that up in here maybe. In this next little shadow, we'll come in with a little peacock blue action and a little Hooker's Green, or alizarin crimson. And this really should come out and then sort of do that kind of a thing. And this I feel like should be maybe slightly angled differently. So let's just come up in here and change that angle. Maybe a little opera. We'll just drop in a little opera in there. Just for fun. Some light bouncing off of something. Do I feel like that needs a little more water? I do. Yeah, there we go. I'm happy with that. Let's hit that with a hairdryer. Now, I could, since we're in the mood to paint shadows, I could think about this shadow that's going to be on this door and kind of get it laid in. And I am going to kind of sketch it in. So I think what I'm going to do is, I think it'll come in. Let me just zoom in on that for you. This is going to kind of come in. There'll be a little hint of blue light, like blue on that door right there. But that this is going to come down like so. and then hit kind of the straight. And then I think this will come in maybe somewhere in here, like so. And then change the shape and kind of follow that arch there. Like that. And this can just be mostly, I mean, I'm going to kind of lose some of this texture that I've got in there, but that's all right. So I'm going to come back in. I'm still using my number 8 brush. And I'm going to use a little royal blue, maybe a little peacock blue, maybe a little hooker's green, royal blue. We'll just see how we feel about that. So let's start with, and I'm going to start with a whistle. What else do I want on there? Yeah, I'm going to start with some peacock blue, I think. We'll just see how we feel about it. Dark here. It changes direction there. Let's go with a little peacock blue again. Come in there. Maybe back to that royal blue. Maybe a little indigo. Ooh, no. I'm going to use a little royal blue. I mean, not royal blue. Phthalo blue. That Sennelier phthalo blue that I like. I'm going to use a little of that. That's a little bit brighter dark blue. It can be lifted if I want to. I don't know that I will, but bring that down in. Switch back to that royal blue. And for giggles, I can drop, while that's still that's a nice, good looking shadow, I think. Now, we'll hit it with a dryer real quick. I don't want to dry it all the way. I just want to kind of get it slightly less wet. And then I want to drop in a little more water. I don't necessarily want it round like that though, or oval. Let that run. Now I may have gotten it a little too dry. That's all right though. I just want some texture in there. Some of that texture that I lost, I want to bring that back in. So this is a good way of, when it's kind of wet, kind of dry, and some, different spots of this shape, I can. Now I don't know that I want this dark line in my edge, so I'm just going to add a little more. Sort of soften that edge Just a skoosh. Oh. Well, I think that's going to do it for today. I hope you had as much fun painting with me as I did. And if you made it this far and are enjoying what I'm doing, why not take a second, tap that subscribe button, and click the little bell to get notified of my next video. It's completely free, and it really helps me to continue to bring you really fun watercolor content. While you're at it, consider clicking the like button and sharing the video with anyone you think would also enjoy it. Be sure and check out my affiliate links in the description below. Leave a comment and let me know if you're enjoying my videos. And as always, if you have a question or comment, please leave it below. I would love to hear from you. And I hope you look forward to continuing this painting with me next week. So with that, I'll say goodbye. I'll see you in the next video. And remember, life's too short to paint on bad paper.